I forgot how small bathing suits were in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wow, that's a lot of skin.
Yeah.
I forgot. And then all these poor little women just walking around half naked. And I was like, girl, put on some shorts. It's okay. You could do that.
Don't
It's
listen to
fine.
Anna.
Give me a t-shirt.
Don't listen to Anna. Just keep walking around.
Just everything free.
It's
like
1989. We're not woke yet. Just stop it.
Lights, camera, and action.
Welcome to the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast.
Remember those childhood movies you loved? We're going to watch them again and find out if they're still as amazing as you remember. Let's get ready to join Anna and Jimmy as they go back and watch those movies you remember being oh so awesomely good. Horror movies that scared. Comedy movies that dared.
Damn!
And action movies so preposterously ludicrous that they defied the laws of common sense. Now, here's your hosts, Anna Santos and Jimmy Coates.
Okay, welcome to a special I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. These two episodes were recorded at the beginning of August 2022. They were test episodes for us to use to see what we wanted the episode going forward, what we wanted them to sound like. We talked extensively about what we thought we wanted them to sound like, but we knew we had to record something so we could learn from it, and then figure out what type of formula they would follow. We picked these two movies, Weekend at Bernie's and American Pie 2, because we were also under the illusion that if they worked out perfect, we would release them at the end of summer. They both fell into that summer movie category. Weekend at Bernie's at the beach house, and American Pie 2 is over the summer and ends at the end of the summer. We used a lot of the same script in these two episodes, but we did drop a lot as well. So you'll hear kind of stuff that we still use now in the podcast, but you'll hear a lot of stuff that we don't use. The Weekend at Bernie's was the first episode we recorded, and it really went off without a hitch. I mean, technically it wasn't perfect and we weren't perfect. The sound was a little off and we had to work, edit it a bit, but all in all, considering we were not fully aware of what we were doing and considering everything, it was really a positive experience. The second episode, American Pie 2, was a technical nightmare. We cleaned it up as well as we could, but had to chop the 20 minutes off the ending because the audio was unsalvageable. But we did decide to release them both because these were two popular movies. We wouldn't really be able to podcast about them anytime soon since we've just watched them. And we've kind of made this, unless it's a special episode of a new movie packed in with an older movie, we try to pick movies we haven't seen for at least 5 years. So we decided to release them anyways for New Year's. We hope you enjoy them. We hope you remember these are our very first two podcast episodes. They're not perfect. We know we're still learning even now. We're not perfect. We're still learning as we go along, but these two are a little more rough. But Happy New Year, and we hope you enjoy them. And now, without further ado, Weekend at Bernie's. Should we do an intro? Like, hey, hi.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm Jimmy. We're going to talk to you about movies.
We are going to talk about movies. And we're going to talk about... Oh, yeah. There it is. Came to me. Used.
Nice.
Used.
Of course.
It was the only one that would get here in time.
Brand new?
Well, I had it brand new, but it wouldn't come for like another 3 weeks. I don't know why, but this used copy that came from like...
It's because they have to print it. They have to print that new one. They have to copy a DVD of it.
It's been a long time since I bought a DVD. Actually, that's not true. I bought a few DVDs. Okay, so we're talking about Weekend at Bernie's. It's the first movie that we're doing. I'm really excited about I am so excited about watching this movie. I've not seen it in the longest time. I really am excited about watching this stupid movie. Because I've seen the trailer.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking at it going, it might not be as good as I remember it. It really might not be.
That's my concern because I remember loving it. I remember thinking it was a super funny movie. And now I'm just very afraid that I'm going to watch it again and be like, this is not that funny. This is, oh God.
And during my research for Weekend at Bernie's, I've crossed a few lists where it's actually named one of the worst movies of the 80s. It's in the top of like top 50 worst movies of all time. That went to box office and made some money. It's like, it's up there.
I mean, I always thought of it as like a 1980s, like Three Stooges kind of movie. Because it's mostly, you're not looking for intellectual prowess when you're watching Weekend at Bernie's. No. It's about slapstick comedy. It's about, I mean, a preposterous storyline. Because somebody's going to, like, right? So for me, I'm just like, I mean, they're carrying around a dead guy for a weekend.
Yeah.
Why are you expecting so much from this movie?
Yeah, you can't go in thinking, no.
You can't.
Godfather, Taxi Driver. Because you ain't going to get it. One of the things about this movie, I truly believe is, because it's 1989, I've always said the 1980s might not have the most thought-provoking of the movie, but they tested everything, and they tested every genre. Yeah. Where the 70s was very gritty across the board. The 90s tried to have a serious tone in almost every genre, whether it be funny or not. Where the 80s they seemed to try everything, and they were wacky. Their dramas were still dramatic. Their comedies they took a chance. And I think Weekend at Bernie's is like a love letter or a goodbye letter or a farewell to the 80s as the 90s came. Because movies, you always get that, like the 70s were very gritty, and like 1980 was still gritty. 81 was a bit, and then it started to become this neon fucking in your face, like long stockings and Walkmans and where...
See, the 80s, I feel like that was the blockbuster decade.
Yeah.
Where they weren't they were just like, we're going to tell all the stories and we're going to do it big.
Well, yeah.
Like, and like just ridiculous stuff, but we're going to make this like a movie. Whereas now, if someone's doing something a little bit more ridiculous or a little bit more, you know, like more of a B movie or even a C movie, God bless, you're looking at a lower production value, and they're going for like the 80s was camp. Yeah. The 80s just went for it.
They just had different budgets. Yeah.
Yeah. The 80s just had a grand old time with everything. And if I'm not mistaken, like they're fairly decent budgets for these movies. Also, they were filming them on film.
Yeah.
Whereas now you've got a lot more like digital stuff, but so it was already going to be expensive regardless if you make a movie. So I just think it's amazing that they made Weekend at Bernie's on film.
Yeah, I don't think this movie would get made today. I just think people would be like, no one's going to watch this.
See, I think we're in the decade of reboots.
Oh, God, yeah.
And sometimes the reboots make no sense because you're like, nobody needs another one of those. So do I think Weekend at Bernie's might get rebooted? I could see it. It would be like Michael Bay. Michael Bay would reboot it, and then there would be explosions, and you know, like they'd like roboticize Bernie. It would be a thing.
And speaking of that, this is something I remember as being totally 80s. Is not only is this a comedy about a dead guy and them having to keep up the charade of this dead guy being alive, but of course. There is, I can't remember if it was an evil land developer, an evil drug dealer, but there was guns and like this evil plot. Like that's totally 80s. So fucking dumb.
Oh God, yeah. Well, and it's also because if I remember correctly, and we can confirm this after we rewatch this movie, I remember the hitman just being like extra sleazy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I'm like, I feel like he wouldn't be that obvious.
Yeah.
as a hitman. But like I remember him being like extra extra sleazy and also maybe wearing the late 1980s suits, you know, with the really soft, very Miami Vice.
Yeah.
I feel like that was what was happening. I can't wait to confirm or deny. It's going to be great.
Okay, so I did not go to the movie theaters and watch this. I probably, like a lot of people, saw it on TV, and we'll get into that a bit when we go over the other stuff. I'm not 100% sure when I saw the movie. I remember seeing the previews, like the trailer a lot on TV, or the TV spots, and I remember like, that looks funny. I'm sure my father or stepfather was like, you're an idiot. This was definitely a younger skewing type of film. This was not aimed at the older generation of the 80s.
Yeah. No, it definitely wasn't. This was definitely a young and fun film. But also, I mean, just the time that it came out, like 1989. Everybody was still relatively happy at that point.
Yeah.
They were still looking for fun. Like nobody was really doing like the internal soul searches. Like I need to examine my psyche. It was mostly just like, look, we're paying, I guess at that point it would have been like what, $5 to $7 to go to the movies.
Oh God.
I want to have some fun.
Yeah. And which brings, like, as far as I remember watching this movie, that's exactly what I remember. This was put it in neutral, put it on cruise control, give your brain a break, and it was just silly, stupid fun. Yeah, we can't. I'm not going in looking at this movie thinking it was like award winning or but I do have some. Well, again, we'll get into that in a minute, because there's actually a lot of info that is quite weird about this movie and when it got made. So, how long has it been since you've seen this movie?
In its entirety, probably 15 years.
15 years. Yeah, I would say that's I would say that's pretty close to when I last saw it.
Yeah. I've caught clips of it on TV as like you're flicking through the channels where you see enough of it that you're like, oh, Weekend at Bernie's, but I would just keep flipping. So, but like actually sat down to watch it, at least 15 years.
So this movie could really suck very easily.
It could totally suck so much. Like, this is always what hurts my heart, because I'm like, you live in my heart, Bernie, and your two little friends, as being a good memory.
I didn't.
I don't want to ruin that.
And we don't want any movie that we go back to suck, but I'm sure there's going to be some. I honestly don't think it's going to suck. I honestly think it's going to be awesome.
I think it's still going to be funny. Do I think there will be stuff that is definitely not like appropriate or non-offensive, like it's stuff that's going to be offensive? 100%. Because 1989. That's
one of the things I think we should address is we are looking at the movie. All the movies we look at, we are looking at the time period. We will address, and it'll be fun to address on would that fly now? Because I'm almost positive there's not. And I can't remember anything about Weekend at Bernie's that is coming to mind that would be offensive right now. But it is the 80s, so I'm sure male chauvinism, off the cuff language, maybe
mild racism. Yes.
It was a different time.
Well, because there's the overt scary racism, and then there's like, you know, the comments where you're like, okay, at that time that was totally acceptable. Now we would term it a microaggression.
Yeah. So we are going to watch it for the time period, but it'll also be fun to take kind of look at it in terms of now. So
would an executive read this script and make it now?
I don't see it. Although you could watch it. We could watch it and they'd be like, yeah, Kevin Hart and I don't know, not Dwayne Johnson.
Oh my God, Kevin Hart. Yeah, no, make it Dwayne Johnson. Make Dwayne Johnson Bernie.
Yeah, and Kevin Hart trying to move him around.
Yes. See, I'd pay money for that.
All right.
Oh God, that's amazing.
So let's
right.
we're going to go into Era. That's you,
Yes.
1989. Wow.
1989.
Wow.
Right. It's disturbing. This movie came out 33 years ago. Like, isn't that
Yeah,
terrifying?
it's sad.
It makes me a little uncomfortable, but that's okay. It was funny because when I was looking through this, I was like, wow, blazers are really a thing. The preppy look. I know it's not a thing anymore, the preppy look, but like the sweater over the shoulders, the khaki shorts. When I was looking at some images that are from the movie, I was like, wow, that really was a thing around that time. Like everybody was wearing like the little golf shirts with the little lizard. I can never remember what brand that
the
is.
alligator, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like that was all over the place. But it's funny because it's weird because when I was looking at the time and what was happening at that time, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think it was in one of the first episodes, which actually premiered not too long after this movie came out. It was a weird, like the world was weird at this time. A month before this movie came out, Tiananmen Square and the protests there were happening. And then a month, like 2 or 3 weeks later, Weekend at Bernie's came out. Batman was the #1 movie at the box office when this came out. And my personal favorite little tidbit of this time, I did not realize this, but on the same release date, Seinfeld premiered.
Oh, nice. And
I had no
weren't
idea.
one of them in an episode of Seinfeld? No, I'm thinking of Friends.
Oh, you're thinking of Silverman?
Jonathan Silverman, Friends.
Friends. But I feel like he could have also been in Seinfeld. That man was in everything.
Yeah.
Jonathan Silverman was in everything. Jackie O was on the cover of Life magazine because it was celebrating her 60th birthday. These are the things that I found out about this time. Also, I was 8 years old, closing in on being 9 years old.
So you definitely didn't go to the movies to see this.
Definitely didn't go to the movie theater to see this one. But I remember seeing, like you said, the commercials, and I remember seeing the TV spots and being like, I want to go see that. And my mom was like, no. What are you, crazy? And I'm like, but it looks like fun. But I do remember seeing it on TV a couple years later. Because back then there was actually a pretty quick turnaround between theater to TV.
Yeah, that's one of the things I have about the movie. So, guy sets himself on fire to protest communism. 2 weeks later, people are going to watch Weekend at Bernie's. It's nothing's much changed.
The juxtaposition.
It's just one of those things that nothing changed. I'm reading this horrific stuff on Ukraine and checking what movie to go see this weekend. It's horrible. I'm a horrible fucking person.
Yeah. No, you're not. You're not a horrible. This is how we cope. Weekend at Bernie's, I'm sure, was like a warm hug to a lot of people who were like going through stuff at that time. Like Rod Stewart. He was actually knocked unconscious the same day this movie came out on stage.
Oh, yeah.
He hit a light fixture.
I remember hearing something about that. Yeah. Yeah, that's familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened on the release date of this movie. These are the random things I found out. But yeah, no, it was it's weird because it came out in 1989, and at that time there was a huge shift. I think in 1989 Nirvana put out their first album. And it was like you could see the kind of shift from the kind of grandiose and, the luxe 80s into a grittier time.
That's what I mean. That's what I see this movie as. This is like not the last of these silly movies, but this is 1989, Weekend at Bernie's. Right around the corner is, like you said, like Nirvana and Jurassic Park and Reality Bites and Pearl Jam and a much different grunge. It's definitely a different time.
Yeah.
So it's like the end of. It's always the end of an era, and it always changes, but like in a huge way. What else do we have for era? No, unless you're done. I'm
I'm checking my notes because I'm old as shit. Yeah, that was pretty much it. It's hard to find stuff like that happen because I can remember 1989, but I also remember it as an 8/9-year-old where I'm like, yeah. Talk to me about 1990. That's when like 90210 came out. I was all up in there. I was never really a Seinfeld fan. Don't hate me.
I wasn't a Seinfeld fan till like
'cause I get
season
old.
4. I think but I was younger too.
Never
So
got into it. Yeah, I never got
ever?
into it. I tried. Not
like
ever.
now, you wouldn't watch them now.
And people judge me. Well, no, I don't mind watching like an episode or two, but I'm never one of those people who's like, ooh, Seinfeld. I'm more like, there's nothing else on. Seinfeld is not offensive to me. Let's
All right,
watch
so we're
some.
done now, and we won't be talking to Anna anymore.
Yeah.
Because she hates Seinfeld.
The judgment. The judgment. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, Weekend at Bernie's. Okay, so the tag thing was 2 idiots try to pretend that their murdered employer is really alive, leading the hitman to attempt to track him down to finish him off. This movie was made for $15 million, and it made 30. No,
That's not bad.
No,
Not bad
it's not a
return.
bad return. I don't know really how the box office works. I know like you have to take away marketing and all that, but it made a profit. It was profitable. Where are you here? Now, the problem with Weekend at Bernie's, because the same movie that came out was on the same week was Lethal Weapon 2. So it did not fare very well. It was also in that time period because it came out in August. Let me see here. Weekend at Bernie's came out July 7th. Sorry, July 7th. And some of the movies that were still in the theater making a lot of money were, you said, Batman, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Lethal Weapon 2, Ghostbusters 2, Parenthood. It didn't really look well because it didn't do very well. It did do a profit, but it ended up being the 43rd best movie of the year. And that weekend, its opening weekend, it was number 8. It lasted in the theaters 4 weeks. By the time it was a 4th week, it was at number 12, and every theater kicked it to the curb. It was done. But it made $30 million. And one of the big things about Weekend at Bernie's is that it sold the movie rights to a lot of TV. And it played it played on a lot of channels all the time, and it developed this cult following. And that's why we got a sequel. Weekend at Bernie's 2, which was 4 years later, but the movie takes place the next day. It was the director, Ted Kotcheff. One of the funny things about him is that he also directed Rambo, First Blood, Wake in Fright, The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. So him doing this movie, when I was looking at it, was kind of weird. Like, this guy did some serious movies, and then here he is doing Weekend at Bernie's. But he did a good job, or at least I think he did a good job.
I remember him doing a good job. Let's see how good my memory is.
Some of the stuff, it made some pretty crappy lists over the years. Where else is my stuff here? Oh, the movie was mentioned in an episode of Friends as being Jennifer Aniston's favorite movie. I remember the episode because it was that contest that they were doing, and it was what's her favorite movie, and it was Dangerous Liaisons, and what's her real one.
Yeah.
Andrew McCarthy actually was approached to play the part of Jonathan Silverman's character. He read the script and thought the other character so much that I don't know if he demanded it, but he got that role instead. Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. It made a profit. It developed, especially for back then, because there was no internet. So whether it was Nielsen ratings, whether it was whatever, it garnered enough of a following, chess sales or rentals, that it got a sequel. but we're not talking about the sequel. We're here talking about the first one, which is the one we are going to watch. So I'm just going to set up the trailer and then we will watch it.
I'm very excited.
Oh, wrong movie. All right, let me see if I can remember how to do this.
Don't you see? Don't you see? We just uncovered a $2 million error. We're going to be heroes. We're going up the corporate ladder. It appears as if somebody's trying to defraud the company.
Somebody tried to smoke it past the wrong guy.
Very, very good work. How would you two like to come to my house at the beach?
Love to.
For Larry and Richard,
How are you?
this is a place to die for.
You have to kill them, Vito.
A little rusty, but it'll come back to me.
What? Should we just walk in?
But what they don't realize
No, we'll stand out here on weekend. Come on, we're house guests.
is while they're checking in,
Forget the accident with the two guys. Take care of Lomax.
Bernie Lomax will be checking out.
Oh my God! What kind of a host invites you to his house for the weekend and dies on you?
I don't know.
Lomax told whoever he's talking to not to kill us if he's around, right?
Yeah, but Lomax is dead. He's not around anybody anymore.
I know that. You know that. Nobody else knows that. Huh?
Oh!
Where's Bernie? It looks good enough. Let's go.
Larry, what?
Huh?
Really?
Oh, Bernie, you animal, you are insatiable.
Doesn't anyone realize he's dead?
Hold the boat! Got him? Hold the boat!
Vito, I'm telling you, Lomax is alive. Maybe Paulie is rustier than we thought.
Ooh, Bernie, you're starting to peel. Want to get you out of sun, huh? Is that the killer? How do I know, Richard? Should I stop and ask him? No, just drive. Serpentine! Did you hear something? What is that? It's just Bernie.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Are we doing it again today?
Oh, absolutely. You know we are.
Great. We'll see you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, ladies. We'll see you later. God, is this great or what?
Can't even.
Oh, that looks awesome.
Oh, God. I hope it's one of those movies where, like, there's more funny parts than just the ones that they put in the trailer.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Then we will go watch it and we'll come back.
Yes,
All right.
we will.
See you then.
You heard them. Movie time. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves a treat, and then watch a classic kick-ass movie from whenever the one we're about to watch was made.
Adjusting my cheap headset.
God damn it.
I know.
There we go. Yeah, I went in and it was not there. I'm like, uh-oh.
That would give me a heart attack. Mind you, I already have that
Yeah.
heart attack like 6 times a day. Every time someone's like, do we have this? I'm like, I don't know. Let me go look through all of my folders.
Okay, first off, I forgot something. But Weekend at Bernie's,
Yeah.
tried a little bit of drama, comedy, action, thrills, spills, and a crazy chick fucking a dead dude.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about the
I forgot that too. Because when she
The
started talking, I was
necrophilia.
like, no. Is she? She did. Oh, God. I had forgotten
10
that
minutes.
until it happened. And then I was like,
Yeah.
Oh my God. I completely blocked this entire scene.
I totally as soon as she was like going upstairs, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I remember. And like 10 minutes into the movie, I'm like, this would be a great movie to watch with my kids, like on a rainy day. And then that happened, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no, this is not. So
I don't
much.
need one of my 11-year-olds saying, did she just bang a corpse?
But the best part is the guy's reaction to it, because they're just sitting there going, what was she doing up there for that long? You know it. And it was like, why are you not more icked by this? Like, why is there not more ick factor? Because I had a moment where I was like, no, she's not. Oh, she is. That's a thing that's happening. Oh my God.
So what do we think?
It's not as funny as I remember. Still
No.
funny, but not super. Like, I think I had. I actually marked the number of times I like really laughed out loud, like a good guffaw. 1, 2, 3, maybe 5. 5 times.
You maybe had 1 or 2 more than me.
Yeah. Like where
There
I
were a
was like,
couple, like-
"Ah!" It's like bark laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was no fall down. There was no
Yeah.
heavy laughter. No.
There's no scene that when you think about it later, you kind of laugh to yourself and you're like, oh yeah, that was good. There's us forgetting about the necrophilia is what we're laughing at.
Yeah.
Like, how did we forget that?
Those wacky 80s.
Oh my God.
Anything for a joke.
I will say this though. The first 3 minutes, very cliche New York. I loved it because I was like, everything in here is just super like cliche New York scenes. But I was like, it was really, really great at establishing who the 2 main characters were without a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
So you're like, I know who that guy is. I know who that guy is. Great. And I was like, this is actually really well done. And then it just kind of went off the rails from there. But I do like their rooftop beach.
Yeah, that was actually pretty funny. And yeah, the music and everything, like there was definitely that nostalgic factor that brought me back to watching it on TV.
Yeah.
I watched it on DVD and I watched it on a 58-inch 4K TV. It does not look very good. I should have bought the Apple HD something.
It's Apple HD, which is what I watched it on, the digital,
Oh,
on
okay.
my 29-inch TV
Oh, she looked awesome.
that I bought like 6 years, no, more than like a decade ago at Walmart when my TV, my tube TV with the built-in VHS player broke. But anyways, that's besides the point. But for the most part, I was like, like it's not a super high quality. So I was kind of like, what did you guys spend all these millions on? Because their budget was like 15 million. I was like, who's spending 15 million on this? This is not a 15, maybe a 10, but this, no. But I noticed that for the first few scenes with the love interest, Gwen, that's her name.
That big crush on Gwen. I forgot who that was until I started watching it.
Dude, she's super pretty.
Yeah. And this wasn't just 2 boats passing in the night. I remember her from The Last Starfighter, that Comet one with the zombies, Night of the Comet.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, she is super pretty. She was 30 when she did this movie.
I remember her doing, like, I was like, I know your face. But I don't know if I know your face because I've seen your face. But anyway,
yeah, she's
Gwen,
been in a ton.
literally, and I don't think I've ever wanted to lose my mind more. When they were talking in the office, they had a soft focus on her and some like soft halo lighting. And then you would cut to like a close up of Jonathan Silverman, and there's no soft lighting. It's very stark, and there's no soft focus.
It's just Jonathan Silverman.
It's just Jonathan Silverman. And I was like, guys, I know why you did that, but it's so jarring to watch.
And maybe that's why I had such infatuation as a young man watching it, because like, Oh.
It was the lighting.
Yeah, like-
100%. It was the lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being 12, I was just, I want to see her boobies. Yeah. Another thing about that is this movie was done a lot of outside. A lot of outside. So they dubbed a lot into this movie. It was so bad. Yeah. It was horrible. Like, and you saw the mouth wasn't moving.
Yeah.
And I know why they did it. Some didn't get picked up, or they thought, oh, maybe we should try to, create a plot here. Like, but yeah, it drove me nuts too.
I don't want to be super mean, but I'm going to be super mean. I think they just had a really, really shitty sound guy. That's it.
Yeah.
Boom
Yeah.
Up was just not doing his job, and he was not flagging, because even in the party, almost every single person who spoke had to be dubbed.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
did the AD not have a conversation with the background actors and be like, yo guys, you're going to have to pretend to talk.
Yeah.
Don't say words. Just pretend.
Which, this is weird. This director was known for losing his shit all the time.
Was he drunk through the whole thing?
Maybe that's one of the things where you go like, that maybe the guy was like, no, you'll hear it in post.
Honestly,
Post.
I think whoever was listening in to the sound was like, whenever they said, how was the sound on that? Someone put their thumb up and everybody just kept on moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Or they
what
fired
happened.
the sound guy early and didn't replace him with anybody.
Yeah. They just grabbed an intern. You, by the craft table. Come here.
Because it was very jarring, like
Yes.
out on the beach, definitely at that party. It was like, it's horrible.
Every single actor had to be dubbed.
Yeah.
And it drove me nuts. Because even there was one where the trainer is massaging Bernie at the couch. All of his dialogue was dubbed. And I'm like, he's
by
not
Sean
even...
Penn from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I was like, he's not even surrounded by people. Like, they've got like... nobody's standing near him. It would be so easy to just drop a boom mic right above his head and catch his dialogue. Like, I was like,
I kind of got
understand.
outside. I kind of got out on the beach. I could forgive that,
Yes.
but inside it was jarring. It took me out a bit.
Yeah.
And even when their back was turned and it was just a head and they were talking, it was so badly done.
It was,
Lost
I
some
think
points.
that took out a lot of the magic, because you're trying to get into the movie, and then every time someone dubs where you're like, there was no reason to dub that. Like,
No.
it just the voices start to sound far away, and then your brain starts working overtime to try and figure out why. And you're like, well, this is fine.
Yeah, and it's also like they needed to have a party, like that atmosphere of a party, but they included these lines for everybody, and some of the shit that they were saying, like the trainer guy, like, you need to work out, as he was passing one of the guys, Larry or Richard. Yeah, it was bad.
I think they were trying to use dialogue to create a party scene. And I was like, no, you just need people and music.
Yeah, you just
can do
go
the music
to
in
a
post.
bar, put up some microphones and record 8 hours of it and take those spots that you need.
Yeah, but that was not my favorite. I actually did make a note of that too, where I was like, that's just...
I don't know if that's like an 80s thing. I don't, but like now it's going to bug me every time I see it. I'm going to get so angry.
I don't think it was that much of an 80s thing.
No, it might have been like a Weekend at Bernie's thing.
Well, but I mean, again, that brings me back to the 15 million. What did you spend that money on?
Yeah, there had to be they send people down there. There had to be someone going like, where the fuck is the sound budget?
Well,
we don't have a sound budget.
That should have been the production manager sitting there going, watching the dailies and being like, we didn't get half of the audio we needed.
Yeah.
Can we get a new sound guy? And then someone being like, I think that's a good idea. That's all they needed. Yeah,
because it would have been, even
frustrating.
if it was recorded at the time of people talking, would have sounded so much better. Like some of the stuff they said was stupid, but it would have sounded so much better than that dub.
See, if it was me, I would have just had all the people in the room, but on the other side of the room, called those actors over and been like, we're recording the lines here. Because then you don't get as much dead air behind it. Like, you still have ambient sound.
Yeah.
And then, because that was what was every voice that was dubbed, and this drives me nuts in every single movie. Whenever it sounds like their voice is far away, and I'm like, you didn't lay down any ambient noise when you cut that line in. It's just ambient noise, line with dead air behind it, and then ambient. And I'm like, God. Or you took them to a really bad recording studio where everybody sounds like 10 feet away from the mic.
Yeah,
this kind of stuff drives me bananas. I think it's because I work in animation now, so we have to record everything, obviously, in a studio. Excuse me. So now I become very, like, hyper aware of sound. Because we'll fire someone because someone's not using the right intonation and not taking... We're like, we're done now. We're not doing this anymore. So this stuff drives me nuts.
I think most people would have caught on to that plot or lack of. When I sat down, I'm like, I'm not watching this today. I'm watching this as a 1989 movie, like we talked about. And the nostalgia was there, right? From that corny music, New York and all that.
I was into
it.
The
one thing I did like is, and I noticed this from older movies like that, they actually did take the time to create the characters. Like like it took forever for them just to get to the beach
house.
Yeah.
But
which
you
was
knew
kind
why
of
they
nice.
were there.
Yeah.
You knew why they were there.
And you cared about them.
Yes.
Not a lot, but you cared about those characters. Like, you were invested in what they were doing.
You wanted them to be safe. That was the main thing. You wanted them to be safe. And I appreciate that. I don't have to want to be friends with them, but I don't want them to die. Like, and the movie does set it up, and it's here's the thing. I didn't find any plot holes. I found reality holes, but I didn't find any plot holes. Like, a lot of the shit, you're like, that makes no sense. Although I will say, I did forget that they had a fly swatter, and they kept swatting flies around Bernie.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that, and I was like, okay, you're adding a little bit of reality there. I appreciate it. But Bernie would have gone through rigor mortis.
Someone read a science book.
Yeah.
Or a page. Yeah.
A page.
The first page.
That's it. Just one page. They're like, I remember when I put out that piece of chicken, fly showed up. We should have a fly swatter. Like, that was the conversation. But there were reality holes, but there weren't plot holes. The plot made sense. It was ridiculous, but it made sense.
Yeah, it was completely and utterly ridiculous, but in that universe, it did. Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Science went out the window, because there is a thing here that I did read that they did, I guess a few times. There have been scientists that have watched Weekend at Bernie's and then like review it scientifically, and they have all said that that would never happen. That would be impossible. Nothing they did would ever happen.
At the party, Bernie should have been going into rigor mortis.
Yeah.
But he's still pliable like Play-Doh. And I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
I watch CSI. I know these things. Mind you, they didn't have CSI back then. But I was like, okay, yes, that's part of that's one of the reality holes. But I was like, it's a fun plot.
Yeah.
It's a fun, and it makes sense.
And like we were wondering before, he was the actor. He did most, like it was him.
Yeah.
They did use stunt doubles for a lot of the falling down the stairs and stuff like that. But yeah, he broke 3 ribs, pinched a nerve in his neck for being always thrown headfirst into the couch. Yeah, so he committed. He did a great job. He came up with that look on his face, and that he was kind of coherently paying attention to everything. Yeah, that was all him.
That's so nuts. I appreciate the dedication.
The acting, the mafia guys, that was silly.
Yes.
But he was banging his girlfriend, so he had to go.
He was banging his girlfriend, so he had to die.
The guy that went to kill him, who is very recognizable in a lot of those movies,
yes,
he was actually quite funny.
I enjoyed him.
Yeah.
Because it's his.
He was the only one that got it. Yeah.
Yeah. His character development was amazing because he starts out this cool as a cucumber, like hitman for the mob. He's like, I got this.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
I might be a
I'm
little
not
rusty. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might be a little bit rusty. I guess I'm not rusty anymore. Ha ha ha. Let's get on the ferry. Also, why was that a party boat? Like, I'm very confused. Why is the regular
people are
ferry,
just
like,
having
there's a bar, there's music.
Fun. It's like
but,
they were going to Jersey Shore.
Just turn a corner. There's 1980 Snooki. So his character development was great because you can see the stages of insanity building on top of each other.
Yeah.
And then by the end, when he goes batshit crazy, you're like, dude, I get it. I'd be really like, I must be going crazy because why is he not dead? I've now killed him like 3 times. He's dead, right?
Yeah.
And then he's still posed on the gurney. God bless. But yeah, overall, not the biggest laughs. There were a couple.
Yeah. And like, I wasn't like completely disappointed, but I was expecting a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies that you can put on in the background when you're doing something, and you know you can listen to the dialogue and you can laugh occasionally, but it's not something that you're like, oh, I got to stop what I'm doing so I can watch this.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's better a background. Watch it for a couple 10 minutes, like 10, 15 minutes on TV. I totally agree. The ending, I found went off the rails a bit. As much as silly as this movie was, it really...
Yeah.
It turned into a Three Stooges episode where it was very slapstick. There was slapstick throughout the movie, but it was super at the end.
It was literally a Three Stooges episode. Like, that's what the ending was. And I was like, I'm not that big of a fan of slapstick comedy. So I don't mind the occasional kind of slapstick moment. Great. I find that funny. But when it's that much, it loses any kind of comedy for me.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay. Although I did enjoy it when like the opera hits a high note and that's when Bernie kicks the hitman in the nuts. I was like,
actually, that part was funny. I did like that.
That part, I laughed. That was one of my out. I was like, "Hey!" to the nuts.
Because he did it like where it wasn't. You see it in movies, guys get kicked in the nuts and they stop for a minute, and like if a guy gets kicked in the nuts, he's not doing a whole lot after that.
No.
And this guy, it was actually
he
really
held
funny.
it. He held it for a while, and he just wasn't moving, and I was like, "That's good," because it right in with the music. The like opera singer hits a high note. That's when the nuts get kicked, and I was like, "Perfect. That's a good moment." Yeah, but it was. I was sad. I thought it would be.
Yeah, and
more laughs.
Gwen, if Richard, Jonathan Silverman, turned out to be a serial killer, she deserves to die because she was a very forgiving person. So forgiving. To the point that she just invited him to stay for like a few more days at her house.
Yeah. I was like, dude, he told you that his boss is dead. He's staying at his boss's house. He's carrying his boss who's dead. And she's all like, I'm not going anywhere until you tell me the truth. Why are you standing in the house while this is happening? I was like, honestly, yes, I agree. If this was a horror movie, she would deserve to die.
Yeah.
And I would thoroughly be supportive of that.
Which also brings me to the police. There was not a whole lot of questioning going after this.
No, and why?
Whatever they told them,
and there's a photographer.
They were fine with it. Yeah, they were fine.
I was like, who let the press into a crime scene? That was my question. Because did you get it? Did you get the picture? Yeah, handshake. And I was like, I don't understand what's happening and why everybody's just hanging out and then everybody just gets to walk away.
Yeah.
It's literally, they've been there for 10 minutes.
Yeah. No downtown question. Hey, whatever these guys said sounds good to us.
Yeah. No depositions. No, like, let's collect the evidence first and then see what happens.
Larry was going to stay there for the weekend because Richard didn't want him to cock block him at the Gwen's house. He's like, no, I'll just stay at Bernie's house.
I'm like, Bernie's house?
Like, I know we were a little loose.
Scene.
Yeah, we were a little loose with everything with this whole movie and the whole concept, but the ending just threw anything out the window.
It went straight left, and I was like, I don't know how we got here. But weirdly, it still kind of made sense. Because I was like, okay, it got there. I think it was the execution of the ending. Like, if you were just to recount without actually including any of the actions, you're like, okay, solid ending. And then it just kind of, like, there was so much that you're just like, no, this would not be a thing. This would not be a thing.
No, I think the director was like, okay, we're at an hour 40. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap this up.
The director just got real tired. He's like, guys, my beach house is down the way. I just want to... Can we just finish this up? Because I've got a vacation.
What were one of the other funny parts that you... There were a couple that made me giggle. The one where they finally found the letter that Bernie to make them kill, and that Larry got a sex change, and then Richard didn't want to be with him anymore, so...
He's like,
he
why?
shot him
Why is it
and then
always
shot
me?
himself. Yeah. Why do I have to be the one?
Why am I getting the sex change? And Richard's like, nobody's getting a sex change.
Dude,
Larry was where most of my laughs came from.
Yeah,
like
that whole thing on the roof.
Yeah, the whole thing on the roof, offering the apartment to Richard, and he's like, "It's the cockroaches, isn't it?" And he said it real sad, like it was something he's like, "It's they scatter when you turn on the lights." And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that's great.
They don't join you. They go away when the lights are on.
They just turn on the lights. It's fine. Like, they're not.
Or making him jump onto the ferry because they're going to miss it. And then the other guy realizes that it's just parking. It's not leaving.
And he's like, great, we're early. Larry was probably where I got most of my laughs. I will 100% give him that. I also like when he goes on this whole, like, oh God, I can't believe this is happening to me. I think after they find out Bernie's dead.
Oh, and his weekend's
and he's
ruined.
Like, my weekend is ruined. This is the worst. And he's just like, why does this always happen to me? While he's actually like holding on to Bernie's, I think it was head. And I was like,
and to his credit,
this is awesome.
Jonathan Silverman did play a pretty good straight guy. And you need that straight guy for that. The funny guy to work. I also read that Jonathan Silverman was going to play Larry and John Cryer was going to play Richard. And then when Anthony Edwards expressed interest, they dropped John Cryer. Anthony Edwards read the script and wanted the other part. And then Jonathan Silverman agreed to be Richard.
Wait, you mean Andrew McCarthy, not Anthony Edwards, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, I'm thinking of
I was
Goose from Top Gun. Or ER.
For me, I was like, Dr. Wiley was supposed to be in this?
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a funny movie at all.
No.
I like Anthony Edwards, but he wouldn't be right for this part.
He wouldn't be.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to be in it. John Cryer and Jonathan Silverman. John Cryer was going to play Richard, the straight guy, and Silverman was going to play Larry. Anthony Edwards expressed interest. Who was kind of big back in the 80s, being part of the Brat Pack and all that. And so they dropped John Cryer. This was before. There were no contracts. It was still all talk. And then...
Also, it was a lot easier to get out of a contract back then.
Yeah. McCarthy read it and said, no, I want to be the funny guy. And then
Jonathan Silverman was like, cool, I'll be the straight guy.
I'll be the straight guy, yeah.
See, that's one thing I'll say about Silverman. He does have that capability of being the straight guy or the funny guy. because I think he would have made a great Larry too.
Yeah, he probably could have pulled it off.
I think he could have pulled off Larry.
Yeah.
Because he's got that, I don't want to say, not quite frat boy, but frat boy adjacent quality.
Yeah, and he definitely has that Jewish...
yes, Jewish New York kind of vibe.
Paranoia and worrisome. Yeah.
That trope.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't...
No.
I would watch it again. Tomorrow?
Yes.
No.
No.
Not anytime soon. Probably another 10, 15 years when I forget about it.
And you're like, I remember liking that.
Yeah, I remember liking that movie. Was it good?
Because I'm starting to believe that our feelings about movies are always attached to the first time we see it. So even if you rewatch it and you're like, wow, that shit, you'll still rewatch it because you forget about that and you go back to the original feeling that kind of imprinted on you from the first time you saw it. I'm starting to believe this more and more because there's some movies that I rewatch and I'm like, could have sworn I love this movie.
Now,
and it feels kind of like this one.
People today, younger people, do you think they would like it?
Not a chance in hell.
No, I don't think so.
Not a chance in hell, because every single person is going to be like, first of all, they're going to be very confused about why there's a tape where you have to press buttons in order to listen to the voice message on the phone.
And see that I never clicked into that because I was around.
Yeah, they're like, why do they keep picking up these things on the desk to make phone calls?
Yeah, why are they running into the house to get the phone?
Why didn't they just take pictures?
Yeah.
Of like the dead guy when they arrived. The stereo when the gun's being shot off and it hits the stereo and changes the music.
Oh, yeah,
They're going to be like, stereo? I'm confused. All of this will mess them up a little bit, but also I think a lot of it will just be very, well, why would they go to their bosses for the weekend? That's inappropriate.
A lot of it, I don't think, I agree with you. I think the whole silliness of it wouldn't make enough sense to them, and I don't think they would like it.
I think it's different if you grow up in that time.
Or have a parent that makes you watch it.
Yeah, that makes you watch it from like when you're young. Or
that's what I do
about these things. Most people do, but it always kills me when I see like younger kids having stuff like dial-up internet explained to them. They cannot compute that you had to be plugged into something. Like I'm like, I understand where they're coming from, and I think this movie has a lot of that because I think there's too much in it that's very specific to the time. Like in the beginning where Bernie like lights up a cigarette in the office.
I'm like, those were the days.
Right? Like I remember this was many, many moons ago.
And you're not supposed to, because he did yell at Larry for lighting a cigarette.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no smoking in here.
But he's lighting up.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, but that's another thing. We're smoking and drinking.
Oh, Larry smoked a lot.
He smoked a lot. Larry smoked a lot. Bernie smoked a lot. Everybody was smoking. Everybody.
Made me kind of miss it.
Honestly, yeah. But yeah, no, there was just a lot of it where I was like, I think this is just going to feel very ridiculous to people today.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, also because I think there's too much forensic information out there.
Yeah. A lot of CSI has come and gone.
Yeah. A lot of CSIs, a lot of like true crime shows and podcasts and things like that. There's going to be a lot of people being like, excuse me, let's talk about where he should be in his decay stations. Like, this is not where he should have more decay. His eyes should be clouded over. This, like, people are going to start saying that kind of stuff because they've been listening to podcasts of like coroners describing the state of a body at 15 hours. So, I mean,
and if we are picking up on that now as people that like the era, knew the era, I could only imagine what like an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old.
Yeah. Anybody, because there was a big fascination in the 90s, especially going into the 2000s. And even now it's in podcasts. But, you know, shows like The First 48 or, you know, Line and things like that. And then people started doing specials on serial killers, which are super available on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like if you want to know about, there's not one. Something
Yeah, they have
about
a
cats.
lot.
Like they're all like, you want to know about murderers and
Tiger
murders?
King?
Here you go. Oh, I don't watch any of them.
The dude
real
that had
people-
the tigers, that cat one you're talking about?
I have the general idea about him, but I mean, but that's
I've never
another
seen
thing.
it.
Neither have I, because real people murdering makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, give me a crazy murderer that you can't kill in the middle of a forest, or someone who like lurks outside of your house and wearing a mask. Sure, no problem. I can deal. Because I'm never going to be in a forest, so I feel totally safe. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is, it's so readily available now that I think it takes because you have to really suspend your disbelief.
Oh yeah,
to watch
this
Weekend
movie.
at
Oh
Bernie's.
my god, yeah.
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 To like really throw yourself in there, you really gotta, be like, this is not the real world. And I think it's harder for younger people to do that now.
I agree. Now, do you think this movie could be made today?
I think it could. It would
It'd be
require a
lot
giant.
different.
It would be so different. It would require a huge rewrite. But the overall sense of we've got to make it look like our boss is still alive for the weekend so we don't get killed. I think that could totally work. Only now it would require like walk-in fridges and, apps that mimic people's voices.
Yeah. And a better sound guy.
And a better sound guy. 100%. Better sound. God, that was annoying.
Yeah, it was really bad. Well, Rotten Tomatoes has it at the tomato meter at 25 reviews at 52%.
That's ambitious.
Back in the day, they weren't as kind. Like Rolling Stones, what'd they say here? It was like called the film tasteless, crude. Was it? Yeah, Ebert. Roger Ebert.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave it 1 star out of 4. And he said it wasn't a funny joke about him being dead, and then they expect that funny joke to carry the entire movie. So it didn't have very good reviews. Right now it's sitting, like I said, what did I say? It was 52? Audience
52.
score is 57 with over 50,000 people rating it. I'm kind of at that level. I would say if I had to give it a score out of 10, I'd probably say 6. And that's only because of the actors, the nostalgia factor, and I can suspend the disbelief.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they did a
I'd
few
probably be
things
closer
different.
to 4.
4?
Yeah. Just because the actors, God bless. But it was mostly just the lead actors. Like that was the part. And poor, what is it? Tom Kaiser? Is that who played Bernie?
Yes.
Yes, Terry Kaiser.
Yeah.
Poor guy. He went through it, but he was good as a dead guy.
Yeah. And the hitman, yeah, actually, you are right. I did like what's her name, Gwen, the actress who played Gwen,
Yeah.
but she didn't have a whole lot to do, and her character became really, really stupid at the end.
Correct.
But the two leads and the hitman, if they weren't in it, this movie could have just sucked so bad.
It would have been garbage.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage. So I give it to them for them and the few laughs that were in there. There was some really like great moments of like comedic timing. But overall, I was just like I won't change the channel if it comes on TV.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to search through my streaming websites to find it.
You know what? I'm going to change mine to 5 because when you said the TV thing, it would be a 50-50 on whether or not I watch it or see if something better is on. Because I definitely I wouldn't go look for it now that I own the DVD because I didn't buy it off Apple. Cost me $12. Although,
even off of Apple,
I was going to say,
cost me a lot.
Yeah, it was like $15 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's $15.99 plus tax. Let's never forget the tax.
Yeah.
Bastards. So it wasn't, but I mean, it's also one of those movies that I'm like, I don't mind buying the digital copy And there are certain movies that I'll do that for. Like, I did this for one of my favorite shitty horror movies. Oh my God, I completely forgot the name of it. But it happened in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
They made a couple.
And Stranger in the House? Oh, When a Stranger Calls. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Not the 80s
the remake one, yeah.
The remake.
Who's in that?
I had a hard time. Oh, God. Camilla Stewart. No. Camilla. God, what is her name? This is what happens. Oh, it was made in 2006. Never mind. I take that back. Camilla Bell. That's her name. Katie Cassidy's in it. Clark Gregg plays her dad. Tessa Thompson is in it.
Oh, I know that name.
Further confirming that
I know.
she
Camilla Bell.
never gets old, and it's really starting to annoy me. So it's a great teenage murder movie. I love it.
I don't know
It's
if
so
I've
hard to
seen this
find.
one. I know all the
Dude,
actors.
It's terrible but wonderful. Terrible but wonderful.
I remember the 80s one. Barely.
I remember the 80s one too.
Oh,
Also,
1979.
The 80s sequel. Oh, there was also a sequel that happens in the 80s, which, God, it's great.
Oh, Tommy Flanagan from that biker show.
Yeah. It's, let me tell you.
A lot of actors
good
here
time.
for like someone being home alone and getting a phone call.
Well, some of the phone calls, they show the other person who's talking.
Oh,
There are
I
multiple
thought that,
phone calls.
I thought that was the whole reveal. That
No, there are multiple phone calls, like from her friends. Because remember, this is during the time of cell phones, too.
right. Oh,
So
yeah,
she has a
right.
cell phone, but out somewhere where the reception, or her friends are somewhere where the reception is spotty. But anyways,
When a Stranger
what-
Calls Back is the sequel. Sorry.
yes. And that's not the greatest, but I loved it. But yeah, it's one of those, like, I buy stuff off of Apple when there are like random movies and they're like, here, you can have this for $4.99.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
fantastic. So I'll buy like the random movies that I like watching and sometimes I get a craving for. Weekend at Bernie's, I thought was one of those movies, so I had no problem paying for it because I was like, I'm totally going to watch this again. Now I'm just going to show it to younger people and be like, here,
Yeah.
watch this movie.
Yeah,
Tell me
look-
what you think.
Yeah. This is how dumb we were. This is what entertained us.
You see that thing he's carrying? It's a television. He's going to use the antenna on the back
Yeah. Yeah. He carries
to find a channel.
Yeah.
A portable TV. And I was like, who? Who used to do that? Apparently Larry. These are the things.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I changed mine to 5. I think that's something we should do
Yeah.
for each movie. But yeah, 5 because I do have a small DVD collection. But again, even if I saw it, I probably would be like,
I think you have to be in a very, very specific mood
yeah.
to want to watch this movie and to enjoy this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was going to say, it might be a few years from now, you know what, I want to go back to the 80s, but as we discussed before, there's hundreds of movies you would probably put on before Weekend at Bernie's. I am curious, and this will maybe later down the road, I do not remember, I know I've seen Weekend at Bernie's 2. I do not remember it now. After seeing this movie, I don't remember it. I would like to.
I feel like I've seen it. I can neither confirm nor deny. But I also
And it's worse
don't remember
ratings wise.
anything.
It's like ratings wise, it's worse.
I believe you. I believe you.
Now there is something. One thing I want to bring up is, guy was doing When a Stranger Calls. Weekend at Bernie's. On Amazon, there are 5,612 reviews. 83% of them are 5 stars. 10% are 4, 4% are 3, 1% are 2, and 2% are 1.
Those people are lying.
Yeah.
Everybody who gave it more than like 2 stars is lying.
Or they just really like the 80s. But yeah, that
Actually,
means close to
what a lot of
5,000 people.
do. Well, they'll put like a 5-star review in order for it to get read or for it to get like put up higher in the list. Because sometimes I see a 5-star review and then I start reading it on Amazon and I'm like, you are not saying nice things about this product. So that could be what's happening there. But also I think this is just a very niche kind of movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you love it, you love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very much like, I remember the first time watching it, loving it. Mind you, I was probably 10 when I first saw it.
I can see why I liked it then. I can see that. My parents are probably right. I'm a moron. But I could see my younger self going, oh, this is pretty funny.
No, I remember laughing a lot. So I thought I was going to get more laughs watching it this time.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is kind of falling flat. Like, there are a few laughs, but not as many as I remember.
The nostalgia was definitely the better part of this movie.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, some of the outfits I was seeing, shoes.
I enjoyed that, I think, a little more.
I was like, yes. You know, like at the dinner with the mob guys where the girlfriend's wearing those sheer gloves. And I was like, oh my God, that's right. That totally was a thing. Like, my sister had gloves like that.
Yeah.
When she was like 16, I was like, oh my God. So that was great. The parties, the beach, whatever. I forgot how small bathing suits were in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wow, that's a lot of skin.
Yeah.
I forgot. And then all these poor little women just walking around half naked. And I was like, girl, put on some shorts. It's okay. You could do that.
Don't listen to Anna.
Give me a t-shirt.
Don't listen to Anna. Just keep walking around.
Just everything free.
It's
like,
1989. We're not woke yet. Just stop.
I was still one of those where I was like, are you sure you're not cold?
Actually, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. You are like, you've always been like that. As far as I remember. Yeah. The fashion also reminded me of that it was turning away from that neon ridiculous 80s fashion and heading towards not grunge, but there was that, remember Parker Lewis Can't Lose? That TV show that
I remember that.
And Friends, that the vest and that was starting to, so it wasn't overly 80s. It was like the beginning of that, I want to say preppy or yuppie or.
Yeah, there was a lot of preppy. It was definitely preppy.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, everybody was dressing in, menswear was a big thing for women. Like, they were wearing ties and button-up shirts, vests, blazers, so many blazers. And they were doing like the sweaters around the shoulder, and that came in from the 80s and moved into the 90s.
Yeah.
And then eventually it started, like, I call it country club chic or country club casual, depending on what area of this, but basically you're going to the country club to have lunch with Bunny. And I mean, that's what's happening. The khaki shorts that go down to the knee and are just a little like looser, a little bit baggier, that all came in the late 80s, moving into the 90s.
The suits with the shorts when they were in the building going to work. Yeah.
Yes, that was also a very big thing. So seeing it, and also like wearing suspenders, and like that was big at that time too.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is, and it's weird because all of that, everything I just mentioned, is coming back in style.
Yeah.
Right now.
Idiots.
It's happening. Terrifies me a little bit, although I'm excited about the suspenders. I always loved a good pair of suspenders. It's hard to find, but they're nice. But I mean, it's all cyclical, but it was interesting to kind of watch and just be like there was some stuff where I was like, oh, that's super cute. When after the necrophilia,
yeah,
and the mob girlfriend is finally leaving, she's closing up her purse, and I was like, that's a super cute purse. It was like pink and round. I was like, that would be perfect in purple. This was my thought, and I was like, this is fantastic. But yeah, I think it's more for nostalgia, definitely.
Yeah,
like that's
probably why I would watch it again. That nostalgia thing, yeah.
Or to explain to people, like, you see that paper that's what printer paper used to look like.
Yeah, with the things on the side. Yeah.
Yes.
That the little hooks grabbed and yeah.
Yeah. none of this straight 8x10 goodness. Because I still have a printer.
I can't believe I forgot about the necrophilia. I can't.
I had no, honestly, because when the girlfriend starts walking up to the house, I was like, I don't remember her coming to the house for the weekend.
Yeah, see, when she was coming up, and I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, it didn't clue in until she went upstairs, and then you see through the window.
Yeah.
She takes off her jacket, drops the knife, and I was like, oh, and then you see.
And the guy was watching down.
The guy who was watching.
With the binoculars.
His facial features.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, just the right amount of disgust. It's perfect. It's perfect. I'll give him that. That was his moment.
Yeah, see, if they made that today,
really
that scene wouldn't be in there.
It probably would be, but then there would be a very long conversation about everybody's feelings about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, nobody needs to talk about that.
And then Anthony Edwards Jesus Christ, Andrew McCarthy. He would be like, why do I have to be the cross-dresser? And then the other character would be like, whoa. Let's calm down. It's okay if you want to be. Yeah, there'd be a whole discussion about it.
I totally had a moment where he was like, why do I have to be the drag queen?
The drag queen. That's right.
Technically, not every drag queen is trans. FYI.
Yeah, some of them are just guys that like to dress up.
Yeah, they just want to look pretty, and that is totally cool. So I had a moment where I was like, that's not accurate. But I was like, wait, 1989. Nobody knew what they were saying at that point. It was all brands making you to the mainstream.
Yeah, and I was impressed because for a moment there, and this is what this culture has done, I was like, like, is he going to say something really bad? And he really didn't touch on anything else. And it wasn't it wasn't horrific.
No, I thought, really liked it.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was about to become. Just for that moment, I'm like, this might go down the wrong path. But it didn't.
Well, it was funny because I watched it and I was like, and it was like, the sex change. And I was like, what? Oh, God. Now we're going to get some like transphobic jokes or whatever. And it's like, why am I the one having it? Why can't you have it? And then it was just nobody's having it.
Yeah, we're not doing it.
Okay, yeah. And then everybody just drops it because it wasn't even, like about having it. It's just like, why me?
Yeah.
It was another why me moment for Larry.
Yeah, one of his many.
And it was like, this is very his character. So it's like everything's happening to him. Why am I the one having the operation? And he's like, why can't you have the operation? And he's just like, it's a fake note. And I was like, see, that's beautiful. Good way to handle it.
Yeah, I think they could make it today if they leaned into the science and make that as the major problem. Like a lot of deodorant being sprayed, throwing in the freezer.
Yes.
The necrophilia would probably be cut. Or just go straight into it if you really want to get weird. I
mean, depends on who the director is.
Yeah.
Depends. Because you won't get necrophilia with Michael Bay.
No.
But throw in some David Cronenberg.
Ugh. Yeah, you get a whole lot more than necrophilia. You're going to
get a 10-minute necrophilia scene.
Yeah. People walking out of the theater.
And then there's going to be discussions about it at the same time, or somebody's reciting a poem while it's happening. Cronenberg.
And
I love him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so safe to say it was fun, but at the end it was a little disappointing. It wasn't horrifying. It wasn't horrible.
No.
It was just not what we remembered.
I'm a little disappointed that it wasn't, because I knew it wasn't going to be as funny as I thought it was the first time. Like I was like, I'm not going to laugh as much. Like I knew that, but I thought I would laugh more than I actually did.
Yeah.
And that was a little disappointing. It's not in my rewatch rotation.
No.
Unfortunately, sorry, Weekend at Bernie's, it's not happening. But I'm not opposed to rewatching it. it could happen at some point.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be mad about it.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I feel so sad for Weekend at Bernie's now. I'm like, oh, buddy.
Yeah, and that's I'm kind. I put a lot on it too because it's the first movie we watched, and it was an '80s movie, and we're obviously going to go into the '80s a lot.
Yeah.
So I just hope they don't all end up like this.
I'm going to be so disappointed if all of my favorite 80s movies like go down the shit.
So Weekend at Bernie's, I'm giving a 5. You gave it a 4. Very disappointed. But if you haven't seen it in 10, 15, I would say watch it. It has that fun, nostalgic feeling to it. You'll remember it. The necrophilia is not as bad as it sounds.
You don't actually see the
you don't see it. There is not a lot of laugh out. There are actually no laugh out loud. There's a few guffaws. But yeah.
I think if someone's a huge fan of slapstick comedy, they'd probably enjoy this more than I did.
Huge fan of slapstick. I love the Three Stooges. But this was so...
Yeah.
There was intermittently, and then the ending that's all it was. And it was kind of like,
yeah,
this is odd. And then the whole thing with the cops and the girlfriend, and it was like, yeah.
Oh, well. Thank you, Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, thanks for ruining my fucking weekend.
Why couldn't you be funnier? Why? It's fine.
All right, I'm going to just stop this right here.
Congratulations. You just had one of your childhood movie memories vindicated. Or they just eviscerated it. I don't know. This is a generic one-size-fits-all type of ending to the podcast. So thank you for listening, and please join Anna and Jimmy next time for another episode of the I Remember Liking That Movie podcast. If you dare to go back and watch that movie you remember liking,